Well, hello again, YouTube. It's been a while. Back here in the Rusty Nuts garage, and it's been a few minutes since we put this video up, bringing this thing home. And I gotta tell you, it is difficult to get time to do this kind of thing. And my hat's off to the people that do this every week, week in and week out, and make videos. Because I gotta tell you, half the time I get out here, I start doing something, I forget to grab the camera or turn it on, and that's what I started doing this morning. And then I realized, maybe somebody's interested in some of this. Don't know, but figured I'd grab the camera and, maybe show you some of the stuff that's been done over the past 6 or 7 weeks since we brought it home. I guess it's been that long. Family vacations, trips out of town, not been here a lot, so don't really haven't had a whole lot of time to get after all the things that need to be gotten after. So anyhow, here today, trying to get some stuff done to it. It is hot out. It's 96 degrees, heat index of like 110. Thankfully got a little mini split in here, so I'm not dying. But yeah, let's take a quick minute and I'll show you around what we've done to the corn dog in the past couple of weeks, I guess. So probably the first thing to show you is that I worked on the rear brakes. I had all this taken apart, took the rear drums off, the old ones. Oh boy, they were a fight. Took the old drums off with all kinds of pullers, had to rip the brakes off with them. They were so embedded, even backing off the adjusters didn't do anything. And then I had to snaggle in some new brake lines, and of course, needless to say, the new soft line up under there, not a lot of light, but also in addition to that, had to snake in a whole new brake line along the frame rail up there, all the way up to the proportioning valve, because, well, the hose wasn't going to let go of that old brake line, and so it broke. But yeah, while I had it all out, threw some paint on the backing plates, cleaned it all up, cleaned up the rusty rear end, diff cover, the tubes, everything. Threw some shocks back on it. They're junk shocks, but they'll work just fine. And kind of got after all of that stuff, and I thought I'd just throw a little bit of rattle can on the rim. Looks a little better than it did compared to, say, the front rim. You can see all the paint chipping off, and they're just kind of gnarly, but I love the wagon wheel spoke. So anyhow, got that all done a few weeks ago. Spent a lot of time trying to figure out a carburetor kit for the 2-barrel on this thing. So I got a high grade, no idea. Hopefully it works. There's your part numbers for it. 1586 for this. I'm not sure I told you. I might have. Yeah, I think I did last video. This is a 1977 318, so had to look for a kit for a 2-barrel for a 77, and that's a pretty standard through many of the years, 70s and 80s, 2-barrel. And so got the kit for that. That needs to be rebuilt on a little bit. Did some wiring stuff to try and make it run a little better, a little more reliably. Took the old broken steering wheel out, put a new one in, fought that steering column in so that I could now have a set of keys for this joker, which is always nice to have. But of course the wiring harness is different than what's in the truck, because this is from like a 1984, and Chrysler and all their wisdom changed everything year to year. So this wiring harness doesn't match the other one. So I'm gonna have fun rewiring that old switch that somebody bought off the internet. I think this fits like some other model year of LeBaron or something, but I got to get this sequence of wires into this outlet so that I can plug this plug receptacle, because they're different, red, black, pink. Well, this is like blue, pink, white, red, pink, black, blah blah blah. So I'm going to pull all of these out of this receptacle, pull all of these out, and not this receptacle, but this one here, and reorganize them to match the one that's up under here. tucked up out of the way because it's all pulled out of here right now. So as you can see, I'm digging in to the floor that is not so much, and that's what I'm doing today. Boy, it was really just cobbled in here. No attempt at remediation of any rust or anything. Just really thrown in here, and I came out here, oh gosh, 2 weeks ago and just started cutting out the old pans and the pieces of tin they had stuck in there, and that was a job. I probably spent 3 hours cutting all the welds off of it. And so now, today, what I'm going to be doing is just getting it cut along the good portion and start fitting in the new pan. And you know, I know there's lots of videos out there on that, so I'll probably just make some progress, stop and show you what I did, and then, because I don't think I want to have a camera running the whole time. But anyhow, let me show you these pans they took out. I mean, they just found some tin laying on the ground. Look at these sweet welds. It was a bear to cut through some of these globs. Luckily, a lot of them never penetrated or made it to a good weld, but this was the one that fought me because this is a really thick piece of metal. And man, thankfully they didn't seam weld it. They just put little stitch welds on there every inch or so, thankfully, because I went through some cutting wheels and boy, was it a bear to get that thing pried out of there. But anyway, it's out. Here's the old steering column. It's pretty bad shape. And of course cleaned out the back here a little bit, got the bumper lowered so that I can actually latch the tailgate out. It won't fly up when I drive away. Just cleaned some stuff up. And so with that, I guess I'll get after cutting on the floor a little bit more. Talk to you shortly. All right, so I thought I'd just show a quick video of what we're into here. So got to keep in mind that a lot of this is tack welded to all these subframes. So if you just come in here with a great big old spinning wheel of death and try and cut this out, you're gonna end up cutting through a lot of these subframes, and that's gonna cause you a lot more work because you're gonna have to repair all those. So one of the things I like to use is just a really nice sharp wood chisel that has been committed to metalworking, right? So just get in there and start hammering away at it. Just tear the old metal because you really don't care. You're not trying to preserve that. Now you could get a spot weld driller and try to drill this out, but the problem with that is it is so rusty that you have no idea where those spot welds actually are. So you end up drilling a bunch of holes and really costing yourself a lot of time. So I think, me personally, when it's this rusty, just tear into it with a chisel, and there's nothing better than a good strong wood chisel that's nice and sharp, and just tear right through it. That way you don't create yourself more work. Now there's a lot of areas here that I've had to, I'm gonna have to get in and grind some more and cut on, but in these, what's left of the torn metal, that'll sand down really easy with a disc wheel, flat disc sander on a die grinder. And really on these particular floors, it's this edge over here by the door sill, the rocker, the top of the rocker. Got a lot of that cleaned off, a little more to go here. And then it's this cross member here where underneath the here is where the body bolt goes, right? And of course that would normally be a hole that this plug would go in. Of course we'll have to drill that into the new pan. I think it's like 2 inches, but anyway, just thought I'd share that. This is not fun tearing all this out of here. So I think it's also worth looking at that the edges here have been just absolutely hammered to death when they put in that, cobbled in that other stuff. And so I thought, let me take my glove off. I can see what I'm doing here. I failed to mention that while we were down in South Carolina last weekend, that old red rusty truck had a beautiful floor, and Killian snatched this out of there for me. So this is going to go in there real nice. and help alleviate some of this damage that they did. Get in there close and you can see just, wow, hammered to death, rusty, big blobs of weld on it up here. So we've really, there's nothing good about this all the way up to past the crown, the bend. So we've got this one that goes past that all the way around this nice corner here. I could fabricate that, but why do that when we got this guy will go right up in there. It will also meet the rocker here, and it'll go past this area where there's holes, but they also welded across here and really just kind of messed the metal up. So I'm going to cut it right along this seam here, and this will go, obviously I'll slide this underneath just like this other one below it is. Kind of slid underneath and tack weld it in there, seam seal it and everything. A little bit different coming out of a pickup truck rather than the Ram Charger, because this is a different rear floor pan. This is all one piece back into the rear floor pan, but it doesn't matter. The shape is still the same. Everything's good to go, and this will weld right up to this rocker, and then I can also just fill this whole thing with seam seal. Also, you'll see, if you go back and look at the other video, this was all hammered down flat so that they could put these tack welds onto that piece of sheet metal. It's not done yet because I haven't taken a hammer and dolly to it, but I was able to stand it all back up pretty successfully. It's a little sharp and gnarly in places, but this is crucial to have this lip here, this seam, I guess a flange you'd call it, so that you can put your seal on there, your door seal. One hopefully that's nicer than this one. But yep, so got that back, and then we'll just continue on. So what I'll do now is go ahead and keep hammering away at this thing and get this floor the rest of the way out of here, then start fitting up the other one. All right, so I figured I'd show a quick snippet of this right here. So this was actually pretty decent metal up under here, as you can see, right? So it actually, that spot weld had a really good bite on there, right? So it wasn't knocking real easy free like some of these right here that are really crazy rusty. So recommendation there, if you're doing this on your own, get an oversized drill bit, much bigger than the spot weld. So this is like, I don't even know, like maybe a 3/8. And all I did was, once I bent up the metal enough and I could kind of see where the spot weld was, I was able to hit it with this. You see I didn't go very deep at all, right? It's barely in there, but that was enough to get through some of the surface metal up here to just hammer it free, okay? Now, again, I do use a spot weld drill bit. It's a very, particular bit with a pilot on it, and that's only when I want to save the metal I'm trying to take out. So this is just rough because it's a lot easier to just hammer them away. But now you can see I'm getting up towards the good metal, right, that I want to keep. And in order to do that, I'm gonna have to get a little more cautious as I cut through here. This rusty spot's, well, that's just tearing right out. There are spot welds in there, but I might be able to find these and drill these out, because that's going to be good metal right there. And I think that's the last of the spot welds till maybe, I think there might, well, yeah, that's it for spot welds. And then it'll just be a matter of cleaning it all up, getting some rust paint on there, and then go around and start fitting in the new pan and sanding off the paint on the edges of the old one. All right, so making some decent progress, a lot laying on the floor, all the cut out pieces. You can see now where those spot welds all go. See if I can get a little more light on there for you. I don't know if that even helps. As you can see, I'm kind of leaving where the good metal is. Not going to go all up into here, because I prefer to have like a pretty high angle or a pretty low angle there rather than like a 90 to weld. I don't like welding 90-degree corners. They get kind of rough. Over here, probably going to have some issues. You can see there's quite a bit of like rust. It's not all the way through or anything, but it's very pitted. And I don't know how far up I can cut based on the other pan. If cut too high, well, then I got to patch in some metal, which I may end up having to do anyway. depending on if I start blowing through this when I weld. It's pretty thin metal here to begin with. You know, figure it out as I go. And now just gonna probably trim up some of this back here, along through here. You can see I already made a mark where my other floor piece is gonna lay out. I'll cut to this side of it. Make sure I leave plenty to play with there, but it looks like I'm gonna catch all of these holes, you know, and all this gnarly spot. And I'll cut pretty wide down here so that I can bend some of this metal around, come up to it, because there's a bit of a gap right here, you know. And it looks like it's gonna catch it all, so that should be good. Now I just gotta keep going, and the next step will be, once I finish cutting that little piece out, start trimming this thing to where I can even get it in there and see, you know, where all needs to be trimmed and everything. And then after that, put all that away, clean all this really good with a wire brush, and then hit it with like rust reformer paint. Here's a good shot of the NP. Hey, that fell. A good shot of the NP435 transmission up under there. Genius, love it. Granny gear. It's awesome. So this thing's gonna be really fun to drive once I get a nice floor back in here, and all the improvements I'm making so far over the past couple weeks, and keep trying to document it. But really, this thing is not going to be a show truck, so I'm not going expert perfect on this, but I'm going to do better than just putting a piece of metal in there and screwing it down, or putting some blob welds. I don't want to have water coming up from the creeks that I'm going to drive through. So anyhow, that's a quick update. Well, all right, some quick updates here. Got the rest of it all cut out, and started cutting on the new pan to fit in here, and I've already had to hack quite a bit off on this side. But as you can see, this weld point right here, which would be just, you know, pinch welded from the factory, should be all the way over here. All right, so we got at least inch and a half, inch and 3/4 that it needs to go that way. The problem with that is that we're already way up against here. I had to bend this lip back that way in order to get this thing to just even go in, right? So I don't know. It looks to be, I didn't know they made a separate one, but this actually looks like a 4-speed floor pan. You probably can't see it on the video, but there's an indent right here that would be the outline of where the 4-speed trans cover bolts down. So maybe whoever bought this floor pan said, oh yeah, it's a 4-speed, so I need this pan. And so it's a different size width because of the way that transmission hump bolts down all the way around. It's not integral to the floor like the automatic. So I think I'm going to be doing a lot of surgery here, because the whole floor needs to shift 1 3/4 inches that way. But obviously I've run out of real estate to go that distance. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is coming up here and splitting this thing all the way down and cutting 1 3/4-ish out of it, so that I'll just take a big old strip. And that makes for a whole lot more welding, but that's the way it goes sometimes, you know. Again, I don't want to be lazy and just, hey, this is close enough, and, you know, cut this off and just, you know, sheet metal screw it in and put seam sealer all over it. That's kind of junky, and it's going to be something that'll have to be repaired again later anyway, because this truck's going to live a good, long, happy life now that it's in my possession. So might as well do it right-ish. You know, I'm not going for restoration, but definitely going to try and get it right, more right than it is. That kind of lined up. You can see like this pan is not even like, that's not even close to what it should be, even for a truck. And the label's way too faded for me to read, you know. But this is just some probably eBay pan that somebody punched out. It's close enough for what I'm going to do. I'm definitely going to be able to fit it all, but it's just going to take a lot of extra work. I've been at this now for probably 2 hours today alone, just cutting out all the rot. So I can already see that I've got another couple hours just to get the pan fitted, and then I got to trim it all down to fit in where I've cut out. So this is going to get interesting. all told, it takes a little more time to do it right, but man, is it so worth it. Alright, I guess it's probably about time to call it a day. I'll show you where I'm at now. Let's see. Got some primer on there, weld through primer, cleaned everything up and ground down all the spot weld trash and everything left behind. Do want to point out that I did pay attention. The old pan had clips underneath that held this speedometer cable up underneath of there, and I already knew that, and I unclipped it and pushed it down to where obviously you want to make sure you don't cut through that. That would not be cool. Speedometer cables are, I don't know, not necessarily hard to find, but they're a pain in the butt to pull out of a junkyard, you know, laying on the ground, pulling it out from the transmission and getting the dash out and blah, 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 you know the deal. So probably better not to cut through it. So anyway, just wanted to point that out, that, you know, that's underneath of there. And still got a ways to go. Got this laid out so that I can start hacking away at this on this side. If I don't hack on this side over here, then this won't line up, and that needs to definitely be above the body bolt, because if I just shift the whole thing over, like say I cut it through here where it's nice and smooth, well, that's not going to work because that won't go over far enough. So it's got to be over here, and I'll figure that out. Maybe use some tape. That's only 1 inch wide, but whatever. I was just kind of getting, the day's getting a little long and it's about time to stop. But I did want to show you one more thing that I found once we got home. I love the fact that these are tinted, but check this out. I hope you can see it. So I don't know if you can kind of catch that it's not attached even remotely all the way back. Thankfully this window didn't blow out when we were trailering it home. Still attached pretty decently at the bottom, and I gotta cut all that out and seam a new one back in. Gotta get the specialty glue, whatever. I don't think it's just butyl. And then this one over here is doing it right here in the corner, just enough probably, I'm sure, to leak. It's not bad at the top. It's attached still, but I'm guessing it's gonna probably have to come out too. So good times, you know. Got a new windshield too. Killian and I went out to the junkyard, and hard to believe, but we found a 1976 like a D100, and man, that's a nice windshield. Can you see that? You know what that's from, don't you? That's from this seat being unlatched and being slammed forward, because these used to, I think they came with like a strap that held them so they could only go so far. That strap is missing from this truck, and that's the price to pay right there. So I'll probably drive it like that for a while. But anyway, we found a good windshield in the junkyard. Like I said, a 1976. Hard to believe that it wasn't completely fogged out at the bottom. It has a tiny bit, and we cut that thing out of there, you know, pulled all the old rotted stuff out of it, and very, 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 very gently pulled that windshield out. It's been about a half hour, and carried that joker out of there and went to the front to pay, and the guys was just blown away that we had a windshield coming out of a junkyard. And he was like, I've never sold a windshield. I don't even know if he knew what price. If you bought a windshield recently, they are, well, probably $200-300, and I think we gave him $60 for that one. And so I'm, you know, someday, it's up in the attic now, but someday I'll put that thing back in there, and we'll have good glass, and you know, maybe even get crazy and put some new seals and stuff in the side glass. That seems kind of excessive, but I don't know. Time will tell. I definitely got some work to do up here. Look, that all that rust and everything, and yeah, it'll be good to put a new windshield in this. So anyhow, I'll work on it some more tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do. Well, good morning. It's a new day, and getting ready to start working on this floor pan again. Got a little bit done after I shut the camera off yesterday and cut it. Showed you that it didn't fit at all, which is not surprising. But this one particularly, for an aftermarket part, was grossly, you know, out of whack. Like I mentioned, I think it's for a manual shift trans tunnel, like from the factory. So let me show you what I ended up having to do here. You can see that to get this all the way over, I had to hack this off of there, and you can see that I made a mark there where the edge would be of the piece I just took out. Same thing here, and you can see that it is easily 1.5 inches away. So what I'm going to end up doing is trying to cobble this back in here once I get it all trimmed down. But now this side fits really good. It sits right down in there. The other thing I wanted to show you all is, like, I don't know what this is all about. This, like, I've never seen a floor shaped like this. And again, I tried to look at the part number on here, and it's pretty much gone. I'm sure this is like an eBay special though. There's all kinds of companies that stamp out these kind of floor pans. But you know, it is what it is. There's never any body panel that's gonna fit perfectly. But this is a little bit excessive, having to go this far to get all this. But anyhow, I did get, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but the actual, what do you call them, bead rolls here that stiffen the panel. I got these to line up now, and then I wanted to cut this out so I could see that I was centered over my bolt, which I'm pretty sure I am. I did some measuring and marking. That's what these lines are. And the problem is that my 2-inch hole saw, I don't have a pilot for it that'll fit into it. So I just had to order one. I ordered it from Amazon. I think it's like $16 for a 2 1/16 bimetal bit. So I can drill that out and make for sure that I'm centered over that bolt. And then the next thing I'm also going to do this morning is go underneath and start tracing out where it's all got to land. I'm going to cut this piece right here out of the way to where I can see a little bit better. I'm probably not going to use any of this on this piece. Probably cut it down through here somewhere and use this factory piece that's really nice. So that's where I'm at now, and now it's just a matter of getting after it and seeing what I can do today. Okay, so now you can see what I did from underneath with it laid in there about as exactly as I could get it, to make sure I had the right positioning, able to trace out the lines, and you can see where the framework is going to be, where I'll have to drill pilot holes in here before it goes in so I can fill weld that to pretend to be a spot weld. And you can see a lot of trimming needs to be done back here. This whole piece will come off, but I'm going to sneak up on some of this. I might use a little bit of this metal here, but that's how it's going to go in there. And time to get started cutting. All right, so here we are. I've got the weight reduction going on for this. It's trimmed in, all right, and starting to line up pretty good. One tip I would give anybody doing this is make some witness marks to where you can see your alignment when you had it in that final perfect position. And I like to cut a little fat on the piece that's going in so that I can have, what I'll do is go back through with the disc grinder and get it shaved off just where it needs to be to get it to give me that nice little gap in there. So put a line back here as well so I can see where it would line up there and how it's gonna fit up at the top. And so far so good. Just some quick cutting and I'll get this prepped and ready to, final fitment. Get it anchored in, but there's just a couple of tack welds to hold it in place. Then I can start messing with this back edge, this other piece, how it's gonna go, as well as the inner piece over here. That's gonna be a little bit of a feat because the scrap that came off that I cut off of this is really nowhere close to like that kind of fitment. So I'll just have to hammer on it a lot and get it to go where it needs to be. But it'll be fun. Good deal. Quick update. All right, quick update. You can see my pile of scrap, except for this piece isn't scrap. This is the one I got to try to finagle in, and I just wanted to show you how I kind of got this fitted. I got alignment marks as I went. Looks like a really big gap, but it's not really that big of a gap there once it's fitted up. Another alignment mark up there to keep these bead roll in alignment. And you actually do want about a 1/16 or so gap there to weld in. This will tighten up a tiny bit because as it gets welded, it'll tighten up. Now there's probably other ways that this could all be done, possibly better ways. I don't know. I'm self-taught, so this is the way I do it. And it ends up looking pretty good, and no carpet's ever going to go back in this thing, so you'll actually be able to see where I did all this work. So I want to be proud of it, that it looks okay. Hopefully it ends up looking okay, so we'll see what happens. Also, I did check while I was underneath, and this is going to line up perfectly with that bolt underneath there. Once my bit comes in tomorrow, I'll drill that out. I think I'm going to go ahead and do a little more cleaning, get all this area up through here sanded down, ready for welding. And I might stick a few tacks in there so it doesn't move around while I start fitting this piece up. So, keep at it. All right, and before I get too crazy welding this thing in here, starting to tack it in even just for other fitment, I do need to go ahead and drill out pilot holes everywhere that needs to be attached to the frame. So I'm gonna do that now. I got roughly, I don't know, 9-30 seconds, I think. Drill bit gives a pretty good size hole to press down on the metal from above and fill it in, tacking it to the frame below. So I got a bunch of holes to drill. So let's see how that goes. All right, friends, new day, new t-shirt, and getting out here to work on this some more, spend a couple hours. I've already spent a couple hours on it today, got a couple more that I can spare, and what I've done so far is gone ahead and finished fit this, went ahead and put some tacks in it, hold it in place, you know, got my hole drilled out. That was a bit of a disaster because the angle right there, it's kind of curved, made the bit walk all over. So it's about 1/8 of an inch bigger than it needs to be. Not a problem, deal with that later. And now I'm trying to get this one fitted in, and I'm telling you, this is like table tennis. You know, you grind a little on one spot and it doesn't fit so good on the other, and you can keep going back and forth and back and forth, and you can see I've got quite a quandary going on back here. 3 different places to get metal together. But you know, there comes a point where you're either going for perfection or you're going for good enough. And like I said, I don't want to just zip screw this thing together. I want it to be decent, but we're getting really close to good enough where I'm going to start tacking this piece in place so I can get to the difficult piece. That's going to be that. Now this one's not been easy because it's got, you know, 50-11 sides on it, and you know, and I got this stupid little cutout here that I'm going to have to deal with at some point. Maybe I'll just zap some of that off at an angle, probably so. When I start fitting up this other piece, that one's going to be a bear because it's going to be hard to get back here for marking because the transmission, it is what it is. I mean, this is what you fight when you weld a floor pan in, and that's why most people just take a stop sign and screw it to the floor. So, you know, hey, to each his own. I guess I'm maybe having a little bit of fun doing this, but I don't know, maybe not. So we'll keep after it. All right, wrapping it up for the day. It's about 3:45, 4 o'clock. I got other things I got to do, but I did get a little bit more done. Obviously, that's all tacked in there now, fitted up pretty good. Quit chasing it. Got some tight gaps, got some wide gaps. That happens. Started fighting in this piece over here. That's a real challenge. There's going to be some huge gaps that I'll have to figure out. But I'm pretty much tired of like messing with it today, so I'll come back to it probably in another 2 days because I've got other things to do. So anyway, here we go. So it's probably worth saying that, you know, if you're in a hurry to get something like this done, you know, go for it. You know, grab a pan and throw it in there, screw it in. I don't know, throw some seam sealer on it, whatever you want to do, and you can knock it out really quick. I've probably got, I don't know, maybe 6-7 hours into it now. I'm not in a hurry on this. I don't need this rig for any real particular thing other than I'm enjoying saving it. I think that's primarily, you know, when trucks start going to the junkyard, it's usually an issue of rust, massive rust somewhere, and somebody looks at it and says, oh, there's nothing you can do about that. And there are cases where that's true, you know, like I showed the frame of the red truck in the previous video. That white truck, it was so beat to death. You know, there is really no point in saving that. Title gets lost, it's rusty, the engine doesn't run. Cool, this one does run. It's probably worth doing a little bit extra on the bodywork to make sure that it lasts a long time. And, you know, engines can be changed, drivetrain can be changed, frame can be changed. It's a cool truck. I think doing this extra little bit, yeah, it's gonna take me a little bit longer, but in the end, I think it's worth it. So, one point about that junky pan that came with it in the back of the truck. Obviously, hey, that's cool. I didn't have to spend whatever they cost on eBay. I don't know, maybe 45, 50 bucks. Because I gotta say, this is an extremely cheap pan. Probably made in China or stamped out somewhere overseas. The thing is, if you spend a little more and get a higher quality pan, typically you can get a much better fit from the outset. Obviously, you're gonna have to work it a lot to get anything in there to fit properly, especially if you're doing a restoration. You got to be super careful and work on it a lot. But I would say if you buy a cheap pan from eBay, you get it to the house and it doesn't even come close to fit, and take some measurements, send it back to them. Try different, you know, seller, try different, I don't know, model, if you will, a different maker of the pans, because I think there's a wide variation of the quality you get. Just my 2 cents for whatever it's worth. All right, welcome back. Finally got the last little piece fitted up in there. That wedge piece very painful to get that all kind of situated. Now it's tacked in place, so all that remains to be done is welding all of this up, and then of course grinding it all down. My favorite thing. Not really, nope, don't like grinding, and I have to grind a lot because I'm not a great welder. So I'm gonna wrap it up for the day. I think that'll be the end of this video on putting the floor in. I'll be back for too long with something else, probably maybe showing the finished product on this and moving on to the carburetor, whatever. There's numerous things to do on this old rig. So hope you enjoyed that. Talk to you soon.